Dare great things for Christ. Christ calls us to dare great things. In the marketplace, as well as in the mission field, there has never been a time like the present for the spirit of the Catholic entrepreneur. Now is the time for men and women of great courage and great vision to engage our church and our culture. Now is the time to dare great things. And here is your host as we dare great things, Father Nathan Cromley, the president and founder of the St. John Institute.
It's an amazing fact that we spend nearly half of our waking life at work. The relationships we form there are real, intense, and impact our overall vision of life. For the Christian, this represents a real challenge. How can I live the relationships I have at work or in my social setting in a way that glorifies God and helps others to know Him better? In this first of our series on applying the gospel, we analyze the Catholic Church's insistence that whatever we do serves to make communities of persons. Hey everybody, and welcome to the St. John Leadership Network, where we are trying to show the impact of our faith in our real practical life, and also the importance of our practical wisdom for our faith. There's an intersection between heaven and earth, between spirituality and practicality, right? Between the gospel and the world that happens inside of your heart, the heart of you as a believer engaged in the world, and therefore in your actions. And if we allow our actions to be bereft of the influence that comes from God, well, the world will therefore be that much more bereft of the effects of grace and of God in it. And that's just something that I really want to summon us to, right? If we really want to change our culture, then we need to make sure that our actions bring God effectively into our culture, right? And on the other hand, our spirituality is, by so many people, they just look at spirituality as something that lacks impact, that is somehow or other lackluster, right, in their life. Like, we don't have time to pray. We don't have time to spend time with God because practically we don't see the value in it. I mean, we might like it, it might feel good, but man, we got to make the next meal, and we've got to clean our house for our company. We have to celebrate our kids' birthday parties, and that takes precedence. Well, if that kind of thing goes on long enough, eventually we'll say, I don't even understand why I have spirituality at all, because my life is eminently practical. And I want to say that your practicality can actually help make spirituality real. In other words, if we take the wisdom of folks who are in action and need to be active because you are in this world as our starting point, and see our spirituality as something that can help us to fulfill our earthly mission, well, then we make our spirituality real, even as we make our real actions spiritual. And I'm fascinated by this because I think it's God's plan for changing the world. He wants to change the world by raising up saints to lead. All right. So to do this, though, we have to learn how to apply the gospel. And what I want to do with you now in this class, I want to take you through a series here, and it won't be that long of a series, but I want to look at the third part of the Catholic Church's document called The Vocation of the Catholic Business Leader. And even if you're not Catholic, I recommend this for everybody. There's nothing in here you're going to, find objectionable if you don't share the Catholic faith. But what this does is summarizes the teachings of the Catholic Church around business, around work, around the productive enterprise, right? That takes up so much of our energy. And right away, I know some of you say, well, I'm not in business, I don't do work, instead I stay at home. And I say, that also is covered here. You just have to do it by extension. When I say business or company, etc., well, it's because on the one hand, I want to reach out to our business leaders who otherwise find themselves without any reference point, where priests actually trying to teach them about business ethics. So I want to say that, but I want you to be able to apply this at home. If you're a stay-at-home mom, for example, you are engaged in an enterprise that's also covered by these same principles, right? So you just need to apply it in your own way. In any case, when we're at work, the church has given us, historically, especially over the last 140 years, a really consistent and wonderful message. And what the Vatican did is around 2011 or so, they compiled it into a single document that really expresses things clearly. I want to look at the third part of this document in this series with you, right? If you're looking for the document, you can find it online. You just Google, vocation of Catholic business leader PDF. It comes right up. And I want to focus in on paragraph 61, 62, 63 in that document. If you don't have it, don't worry. You don't need to have the document in front of you. But if you do have it, you can look it up. Because what happens in these paragraphs is the church enunciates, a consistent teaching that goes all the way back into the Bible. That no matter where we are and what we do as human beings, we have to maintain our humanity. And that means that if we are in the workspace, okay, and we're in a secularized work field where everybody's got different value systems and some people are nice and some people are manipulative and some people are unfair and everybody's out looking for the bottom dollar of their paycheck, we still need to approach that environment as from the perspective of a community of persons. Now, that's a complicated way of speaking. It's not very effective. It's not very direct. A community of persons sounds very theological. Well, that's because the Vatican is theological. It's priests who are writing this stuff, right? But what they're meaning is very precise. They're trying to say that even if you're in a productive activity that's focused on generating a profit, and even if your main goal is the bottom line, for whatever that is, you still have to treat people like people. Now, I know that could be a little bit generic. So the church really emphasizes this word persons. And what she's meaning by that is that the person that you're dealing with is not just a human being. It's a person is a human being who has the right to a spiritual fulfillment, meaning that they have a mind and intelligence. They have a heart and a free will. They have a dignity because they're made in the image and likeness of God, who himself is a person. Right? So not a human person, he's a divine person. And yet we're in his image because we are free, we are intelligent, we are able to know the truth and dedicate ourselves to it. We have a dignity that comes from an immortal soul and having that soul. And that has to be at the forefront of the decisions that we make. So this is important because the way that there's a tendency in America especially to kind of treat business as a cutthroat activity where we divorce what we do every day from the people who are doing it. And if I run a company, own a company, manage a company, outside of the perspective of a respect for the people as human persons, well, before you know it, we're going to be transforming the world of work into something that actually renders our people less human, less fulfilled, less happy, and in the name of profit, for example. But doing so is contrary to our vocation as Christians who are running our businesses, who are managing our people. So there's a vocation here, you see, a call by God. If you have a position of power in a company or in a social group of different, if you're the chairman of your HOA, or the volunteer coordinator at your local YMCA, wherever you're involved in society, if you have a position of power, you need to make sure to wield your power towards other people in a way that will bring them closer together as people. And allow you to achieve your common work in a way that enhances their lives. Your workplaces, in other words, when they're run by Christians, all right, need to be workplaces where the people leave them more authentically human. I know that's a really kind of a fancy way of speaking, but I'll give you a practical example. If you go to an art museum, and I hope you all do, hope you have the occasions to go, you know that when you're in the art museum, there's just like a type of refreshment that happens to your mind. By the time you leave a museum, you're kind of full of a good, peaceful feeling. Or when you visit a church and you sit in the back of it and you look up at the stained glass windows and you can almost smell the lingering incense that's there, and you're touching something deeper in your person. You might not have anything to eat, you might not have anything to drink, but if you go to a symphony and you listen to a symphony or a ballet at least once a year, I'm talking about fine arts here, but I'm giving you examples where your spiritual life is awakened. By spiritual, I mean your mind and your heart. Well, our workplace needs to have a similar effect on us. Obviously, if you're in a manufacturing facility, we're not talking about the beauty of the fine arts. We are talking about a job that's well done. with a quality product of which we are proud, done in a way that's safe and collaborative with real relationships with others. That's our vocation. It's difficult to put into practice, but that's exactly what we're going to talk about here.
Are you a Catholic business owner or executive with your company? We have an invitation for you. August 11th through 15th, St. John Institute is hosting an Audeo Leadership Masterclass retreat in Evergreen, Colorado. At this one-of-a-kind leadership training, you'll learn how to bring the power of your faith to guide you on your challenges as a leader, deepen your spirituality, and meet other Catholic business leaders as interested in their faith as you are. With newfound wisdom, you'll craft the plans necessary to lead a daring life. Visit stjohninstitute.org/SJI-events to claim your spot. We'll see you in the Rockies.
So if I have a position of power, if I have a management position, or if I have a position of power because maybe I'm a specialist or I'm a technician in my field, if I'm a mechanic and I'm working on school buses, I had better know my brake systems and make sure that they're done correctly. Sometimes the technician has more power than the manager, because in the end, the manager can only manage your work, but the quality of your work, the attentiveness of what you're doing, if you're running a line in a manufacturing facility, right? Or if you're a dental hygienist and you're sitting there with someone's mouth open in front of you, it's the quality of what you do. It's going to come directly from the choices that you make. And in that power, the church is there to say, remember that anytime you deal with human beings, you're dealing with people who have a soul that comes from God. And therefore, they have a dignity to them that needs to be respected and enhanced by what they do. This is really interesting because it makes our companies real opportunities for us at a very basic level to heal a broken world, to heal societies. And I don't think this is something that we are overestimating here. When you create a team of people, be it 60 people manufacturing furniture, be it 100 people making food, be it 3 people that are fixing your cars in your garage. There's a team of people there. You're bringing them in from very different backgrounds, very different social settings, into a world where they're going to operate for 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours a day together. So there's a set of base rules that you can put into place, and those base rules that you put into place can govern the quality of the interactions in a way that can help people to live at a higher level at work than they probably do at home. And you have that opportunity anyway. I'm not saying that you all do it, but you can do it. And why don't we do it? I don't know. There can be all kinds of base rules that are interesting. Like there's no cursing here. Or the type of music that we'll listen to is going to be this type of music that we're going to listen to while we're working. Or the way that we interact with each other will be respectful. That we're going to encourage one another, applaud accomplishments, recognize excellence. Well, these are things that they might not have at home. They might never have had growing up. I remember in one company where I was doing some leadership work, we had an affirmation time where they sat in their teams and they shared with each other why each one of them, is a good working partner, what they do well in their team to enhance the life of everyone else in the team. And you know what? I couldn't believe it. But there were people in that exercise who, became emotional because they said, we have never in our life received compliments or affirmation from anybody. And they're literally overcome by emotion because they're at the workplace is the only place where they've received affirmation. And you realize, well, what a wonderful opportunity. The owners of the business realize that they have an opportunity to give, really great human recognition to other people. And that by doing it, they're actually giving something that people never received in society. Those of us who come from good backgrounds, we take it for granted and we think, oh gosh, everybody's like this. Well, not everybody is like that. In fact, we have an opportunity, again, when we're working with other people, to bring them something that they may have been missing from their family, from their personal history, and to give it to them if we're looking for it. And so what the church is saying, in her document, in her teaching here, is that we need to look for it. All right. This is a quote from paragraph 61. We read that the purpose of business is not simply to make a profit, but it is to be found in its very existence as a community of persons who in various ways are endeavoring to satisfy their basic needs and who form a particular group at the service of the whole of society. So it's great because in that quote you hear, hey, this is just work. This is not a therapy session. This is not a church, which is true. It's not a family, right? Well, I understand that. But at the same time, the church is saying, look at it for what it is. It's still a type of community. It's people who are coming together with a mission. And what is that mission? The mission is to, number one, satisfy their basic needs. So, of course, make a paycheck, right? So we need to earn money. So we come together to help each other to earn money, right? So that's a very important point. It's not to be neglected, but it's there at the same time as a call for me. How do I help the others to also keep their jobs, to stay safe in what they do, to satisfy their basic needs through their work? But then the second thing that it emphasizes is that it's at the service of the whole of society, meaning we get to do something here in our company. That's really kind of amazing. We take aluminum, for example, that comes in from another company, and we reshape it, we retool it, we repurpose it into something that is beautiful, that's safe, and that represents the pride that our own people have in their own community. I know one furniture manufacturer who will say, and whenever someone buys the furniture, he just says, thank you for putting our furniture in your home. It's a beautiful way of thinking about it, right? Well, if you're manufacturing furniture for a company like that, what a neat thought. People are choosing to put our furniture into their home to make it a part of their family legacy. Well, that's an incredibly beautiful thing. The conversations that'll be had around their table, the way that the furniture impacts the life of the home. And we get to do that. We get to fix cars. We get to clean teeth. We get to coach kids in how to swim. There's all kinds of ways that we make the world better. But what we need to remember is that we're doing it with other people. Even if you're a solopreneur, you still depend upon those who sell you the product or those who coach you in what you're doing. And you depend upon the stability of the marketplace. You depend upon your industry. There's all kinds of people who are involved. And all of them are depending on you to do it as a Christian. Meaning that we get to look upon, when I see the world as a community of persons, it means that I'm able to influence the world by bringing genuine vision for true humanity to them. And that's given to me through Christ and through my faith. But when I exercise it properly, so it looks like safety, it looks like encouragement, it looks like praise, it looks like development of their talents, it looks like respectful working environments, it looks like clarity in my objectives, it looks like patience with people who don't necessarily meet their objective. There's a lot of different aspects in a very secular kind of or non-faith world that are influenced by people who approach their job from the perspective of faith. And this is our call. The word company, for example, is the combination of two Latin words, cum, which means with, and panis, which means bread. Company means those with whom you break bread. Isn't that amazing? So I'm literally creating a community of people who are trying to do this together. And when I keep that in mind, it can become an instrument in the hands of God for great things. And in fact, that's what we're trying to do.
Would you like to start your Thursday mornings with a scriptural leadership lesson? Join the St. John Leadership Network, where Father Nathan hosts a 30-minute call at 6:30 a.m. in all 4 U.S. time zones. To learn more, go to www.stjohnleadershipnetwork.org/member and join for free today.
I know a lot of people are very concerned with our world. They're concerned with our culture. They're concerned with the way that we envision a world, especially if we put God outside of it, because it seems like our moral compass is just lost. I mean, without a belief in God, is there any absolute that can really hold us together and be an effective goal towards which our society will strain? Because if you don't have God as your goal, well, then what's the goal except society itself? And if it doesn't have anything by which we define society, well, then that definition can change into ways that are dangerous and even harmful. And that can cause us a lot of concern. Well, I want to kind of summon you today to do something about it. Especially if you're a business owner or if you're an executive in your company, you have the right to lead that company in a way that does allow it to be permeated with values that come from God. But if you don't do it, well, then no one will. In the document that we're looking at right now, paragraph 62, it gives kind of two ways of looking at business. It says, when we consider a business organization as a community of persons, it becomes clear that the common bonds between us are not merely legal contracts or mutual self-interests, but commitments to real goods shared with others to serve the world. Great definition of a business. A commitment to real goods shared with others to serve the world. That's a really beautiful, transcendent vision that allows us to see and collaborate with people with the perspective of the community of persons, making a team of real people who can impact each other in a good way. And then the document juxtaposes a different position. Quote, it is dangerous and misinformed simply to consider business as a collection of shares where self-interest, contracts, utility, and maximization of financial profit sum up its entire meaning. An inherent characteristic of work is that it first and foremost unites people. Therein lies its social power, the power to build a community. All right, so you can kind of see these two worldviews colliding, and many of you are right there in that collision point. How will we define our workspace? Well, you'll define the workspace based upon how you define the work being done and the way that it's being done. And if you don't define them, well, then someone else will. And this is where your role as an instrument of Jesus Christ becomes extremely effective. Just take, for example, let's take something outside of work. For those of you who aren't in business itself, if you want to take the example of you being in charge of some sort of social gathering or political movement or volunteering, let's suppose you are in charge of picking up the litter by the side of the road. All right, and you decided to volunteer with your family, and before you know it, you're in charge of that whole mile of road, and you're governing, 3 or 4 other families, and you're all doing it together. All right, well, suddenly you find yourself in a way where you get to set the culture for how you're going to interact. Well, set that culture well. Set it like a community of persons. You give the people the opportunity to get to know each other. Give each other the opportunity to build one another up. Recognize great service. Thank your people appropriately. Help people to maybe develop a sense of community that's larger than just picking up garbage next to the road for a mile. You see, there's an opportunity here where you can touch people in a way that allows God's love to come through you into their lives, without even necessarily mentioning your faith, but making sure that the way that those people are treated insofar as they're there and as long as they're there reflects their dignity as spiritual people. Now, I know that example is a very simple one, and when you're in a large multinational corporation, there's all kinds of challenges to make practices and policies to foster a community of persons amongst your workers, Yet, and I'm going to quote this from the document, leaders in large or small firms are greatly helped by the practice of personal virtue, those life-enhancing habits and qualities of character essential to any profession. Isn't that amazing? So the Vatican's like, yeah, it can be hard. You're in a company that's publicly traded, and so it does. All that matters is the bottom line. Well, you can say all that matters for the people in charge might be the bottom line, but not for me. Why? Because I'm going to live my life with virtue, meaning the way that I run my meetings, the way that I do my presentations, the way that I interact with the other people in my workforce won't be dominated solely by the coefficients of material success. Why? Because I am not, right? You see, there's a summons here to be a saint in a large multinational corporation. Be a saint in a publicly traded company. Well, what does that look like, Father Nathan? Well, the document here is saying it looks like virtues. It looks like developing especially prudence and justice. By prudence, you make the best practical decisions that you can. And by justice, you give each person what is their due, and you insist on that being respected. And from them, you can have a whole host of other virtues that comes through. Just think about the behavior of salespeople on their trips. I mean, from a lack of gluttony, just refraining from being gluttonous and over drinking, for example, or overindulging in other kinds of activities that aren't healthy. You bear witness. You bear witness to the fact that you're not there in order to just milk a company for personal pleasure. You're there in order to deliver a product because you've been sent there by God to do this service and to do it with dignity. I do want to finish by talking just briefly about family-owned businesses. And there's a special line that the Vatican actually puts in here for families that own their own business. And it's from paragraph 61. It says, "This is the ideal when relatives join together in a family business. And reflecting the love that wants every family member to flourish, family business leaders might tailor work opportunities to marginalized and disadvantaged groups." Now, that's not the easiest language to understand, but what it's driving at is, hey, just as you as a family say we're going to make our family the unit into which we're inviting you to work, and our family culture permeates that workspace environment, well, in the same way, we want to extend the family culture to other people who need this assistance. And I'm thinking of a real opportunity business owners have to employ those who have Down syndrome, to employ those who otherwise might not find a workspace environment, to give and render the dignity of work to people who might be marginalized in various ways. You can do that. Why? Because this is our family that comes first, and our family extends to our work. Therefore, our work can create a wider sense of family. It's just one particular imaginative, creative, proactive thing that flows from when you see your business for what it is, a community of persons that are united to produce something, yes, but who are people first, and then doing what they're doing. This opens our minds, and really we can do a lot of good then by our businesses, and our businesses can do a lot of good for the world.
Dare great things for Christ.
Share your feedback with Father Nathan. Send us an email at communications@stjohninstitute.org. That's communications@stjohninstitute.org. And visit www.stjohninstitute.org and sign up for our newsletter to receive updates from Father Nathan.